Hello and welcome to this edition of Inside the Americas. I'm Laura Cellier. Coming up in the programme, big fines for big tobacco in Canada. A court orders firms to pay out to smokers who say they were never told about the health risks. Plus, the transgender athlete breaking all records on Twitter. We meet Caitlyn Jenner, the glamorous cover girl, formerly known as Bruce. And Peru's shrinking ice caps, what climate change means for people living in the Andes tropical glaciers. All of that still to come. We begin, though, with a landmark ruling against the tobacco industry in Quebec. Tobacco firms were ordered to pay more than $12 billion to smokers who claim they were never warned about the health risks. It comes as some comfort to those who have lost loved ones to smoking-related illnesses. Lucy Provan has this report.
For him, 3 years ago, Jean-Yves died from lung cancer. His wife, Lise, has become a campaigner against smoking.
What is a cigarette? It destroys you. It annihilates you. Your health is lost.
Lise is one of thousands of Canadians to have pressed charges against the tobacco companies in Quebec. 17 years and 2 appeals later, a historic judgment, an €11 billion fine to be paid out to 100,000 affected smokers and ex-smokers. Almost 70% of this must be covered by Imperial Tobacco Canada. The rest by Rothman, Spencer & Hedges and JTI McDonald.
It's a big day for the victims of tobacco, who've been waiting for about 17 years for this decision. It was a long process, but we've arrived. And it's a big victory for the victims and a blow for the tobacco companies.
In a 276-page judgment, the Quebec Superior Court decision concluded that the companies did not properly warn customers of the dangers of their products. But the companies argue that this is unrealistic, with Imperial Tobacco Canada stating the ruling ignores the reality that both adult consumers and governments have known about the risks associated with smoking for decades. All 3 companies have vowed to appeal, but regardless, they will still have to pay out $1 billion Canadian within the next 60 days. This is the latest in a line of progressive anti-smoking measures in Canada. In 1997, it imposed limits on the sale and production of tobacco products. And as early as 2000, it launched shock campaigns on cigarette packets.
The United States has become involved in a political storm that's been brewing in the South China Sea. Beijing says it owns much of the region and has been flexing its muscles to assert its claim. But Malaysia and Vietnam also say they have a claim. And now they have the support of the US government as well. Mark Thompson has more.
Old enemies making a new pact. The US has agreed to give Vietnam $18 million to purchase a new fleet of Metal Shark patrol boats. In return, Hanoi will use them to maintain peace and stability in the Asia-Pacific. The 2 countries have united forces to fight against something they both see as an encroaching threat: China's territorial ambitions in the South China Sea.
The United States opposes militarization and the creation of tensions in the South China Sea. Even though we are not a claimant to the South China Sea, we, like every other country in Asia and really around the world, have an interest in freedom of navigation.
US Defense Secretary Ashton Carter has called on all sides to stop island building in the resource-rich region. For its part, Vietnam's military occupies 21 islands and reefs, while China has been constructing artificial islands in contested waters, most recently the Spratly Islands. These images show the fiery Cross Reef in 2006, before Chinese construction crews moved in. This is what it looks like today. The government has also sent ships loaded with sand to help extend other islands nearby. It's a strategy which has upset China's neighbours. The Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei and Taiwan also have claims to these waters. The archipelago, made up of 100 coral islands, is an important strategical crossroads, rich in oil and gas. Washington is concerned China could take the region by force. Tensions intensified in May when a US surveillance plane scouted the area, ignoring instructions from the Chinese government.
Such action is likely to cause an accident. It is completely irresponsible and completely dangerous and detrimental to regional peace and stability. We express our strong dissatisfaction.
A statement which provoked a swift response from the US Secretary of Defense. He says Washington will continue to monitor what it deems international waters.
There should be no mistake. The United States will fly, sail, and operate wherever international law allows, as U.S. forces do all over the world.
The US estimates China has expanded more than any other nation in the region. Beijing has already developed over 800 hectares of land. Washington is calling for that work to cease. For the moment, those calls are being ignored.
I'm so happy to be living my true life. Those were the words of transgender Olympic champion Caitlyn Jenner, formerly known as Bruce. The patriarch to the media-savvy Kardashian clan wrote his or her first tweet after appearing on the cover of Vanity Fair as a woman. Jenner broke all Twitter records, beating even President Obama by managing to amass 4 million followers in under an hour.
Call me Caitlyn. The transgender Olympic champion, formerly known as Bruce Jenner, stepping out in the pages of Vanity Fair after 6.5 decades in hiding. A classic silhouette, styled in a creamy corset and sporting a retro blowout. Poised, Caitlyn stares seductively down the barrel of famed photographer Annie Leibowitz's camera, months after revealing she's always had the soul of a woman. After years as a bit part in the Kardashian reality TV empire, the plotline will now be trained on Jenner's transition from male to female. An 8-part series will start airing July 26. For Caitlyn, it's an honest break from her life as Bruce.
Bruce always had to tell a lie. He was always living that lie. Every day, he always had a secret from morning till night. Caitlyn doesn't have any secrets. As soon as the Vanity Fair cover comes out, I'm free.
Caitlyn broke President Obama's world record for the fastest growing Twitter account. Within 4 hours of signing up, 1 million followers were already hanging off her every tweet. Her very first, "I'm so happy after such a long struggle to be living my true self. Welcome to the world, Caitlyn. Can't wait for you to get to know her." Even the president heaped praise on the self-proclaimed Republican, tweeting, "It takes courage to share your story." An outpouring of support online. Caitlyn's loved ones were among the well-wishers. Jenner's daughter, model Kendall, sent out this encouraging tweet. "Be free now, pretty bird." Stepdaughter Kim Kardashian tweeted, "How beautiful. Be happy, be proud, live life your way." For showing strength in the face of adversity, Caitlyn will be honoured at the 2015 ESPYs with the Arthur Ashe Courage Award. Past recipients include Nelson Mandela and Muhammad Ali. Once a model of all-male masculinity, Jenner has now broken new ground as a symbol for the transgender community.
As talks on climate change get underway in Germany, a team of scientists are preparing to return to the Calcaya ice cap, the largest glacier in the tropics. Peru's glaciers are melting, and that means water supplies on the coastal desert are at risk, a potential disaster for thousands of people. Sanam Chantier has the story.
Acclimatizing to Peru's high altitudes, this group of scientists are preparing for another trip. And it's been some 40 years in the making. Their destination, the world's most studied tropical ice cap.
This is a place we've been studying since 1974. And our objectives this year are to, first of all, photograph the Coricalis Glacier. We put up a baseline and we started photographing this glacier in 1978. And we've documented its retreat every 2 to 3 years ever since.
These photographs illustrate the glacier's substantial retreat, which according to studies is by 1.1 kilometers. That's 50% in just 52 years. And the perils of changing temperatures don't stop here. Global warming now threatens the complete disappearance of the Andes tropical glaciers within the next 20 years, putting precious water, energy and food sources at risk. For Dr. Lonnie Thompson and his team, taking samples and assessing the situation is on top of the agenda.
It will be interesting to see how the Coriolis Glacier has retreated, because over much of the time we've been monitoring it, it was actually terminating in a lake, and now it's retreated up out of the lake.
Once the scientists have completed their trip, glaciologists back in Ohio will analyze samples they've taken layer by layer. The team is also expected to find fossilized plants older than 6,300 years, no longer covered in ice. This would determine that this is the smallest that the ice cap has been over the past 63 centuries.
And we end with a story about making art out of rubbish. Students at a university in Brazil have been using the piles of trash that pollute Rio de Janeiro's Guanabara Bay. Plastic bottles, tyres, old flip-flops, scratched CDs and plastic supermarket bags were gathered and glued together to make these sculptures of ocean fauna. Well, there's a serious message behind these sculptures. Guanabara Bay, which will be the site of the Olympic sailing events next year, used to be home to hundreds of dolphins. The population has dwindled to just a few dozen. Well, that's it for this edition of Inside the Americas. Thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.